mushroom consciousness is the consciousness of the other, both in hyperspace, which means in dream and in the drug trance, at the quantum foundation of being, and in the human future and after death. And all of these places, which were thought to be discrete and separate parts, are seen to be part of a single continuum. What history is the dash over 10 to 15,000 years from monkeyhood to flying saucer, without ripping the envelope of the species so badly that the birth is aborted and fails, and we remain in physes. And history essentially then is the shockwave of eschatology. Something is at the end of time, and it is casting an enormous shadow over human becoming.
It's gonna get philosophical.
Yeah, easily. So I guess we're going to do Invisibles Volume 1, issues 13 through 16, written, of course, by Mr. Grant Morrison, and then illustrated by Jill Thompson and Paul Johnson.
Yeah.
And I think Jill Thompson is good for this story, for the story of Lord Fanny.
I'm glad you. Yeah, I was wondering what you'd think, because you've been the naysayer more so than I.
Yeah, I think
it just fits really well.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly it. Like, she's terrible at action, and like later on, gentle listeners, we're gonna be looking at the wonderful George Perez influenced art of Phil Jimenez. And then he's just gonna draw these fucking wild scenes, and then it's gonna switch over to Jill Thompson drawing like. And it's so jarring, and but here it's fantastic, because she's not an action artist, and there's not much action in this. There's just a lot of human drama and fucked up shit.
She's pretty good at the fucked up shit, and it's unfair to Phil Jimenez is one of the greats, I think, so it's tough competition.
Yeah. It's not a competition, James.
No.
So what? I don't know. I like this story a lot. The She-Man story. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah. She-Man part 1 to 3. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Venus is a boy. Day of Nine Dogs. Apocalyptic. Yeah, I always thought this was the stuff that kind of, I know I keep saying this, but this is when Invisibles kicks in for me, I think especially this one, I was struck upon rereading that the issue before this, issue 12, Best Man Fall, it's the same narrative device as as with Lord Fanny, as if to equalize them, but the difference, of course, is she gets 3 issues, so because she's one of the heroines, but yeah, it is very much like everyone. It just gives you the sense that all the characters are existing in this fourth dimensional structure. Yeah,
I picked up on that too. That's definitely something I want to think through as we do this. But yeah, it's pretty cool that I'd never really connected that before, that they were such similar stories.
Mm-hmm. The framing for this one, I'm gonna have a rant about this next episode. But it begins with the familiar metaphor of the butterfly, of the transformation, of the caterpillar turning into a cocoon and then emerging transformed, and then in the background there, I guess that it is Lord Fanny telling the story of the 5 sons from which I looked this up, and it's like one version, like a kind of an obscure version, if I understand correctly, of Mayan myth. It's not even like mainline Mayan myth. Yeah, but it happens to be the one that got picked up by Terence McKenna, who is super influential to Grant, and so that's the story we get here. And I'm not.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna try to describe. I can't pronounce these names. Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl. I can do that, but when they start getting like, yeah,
I looked up the pronunciation for like Miquelon Tecutli. Like that's, I think, pretty close to what it should be for the Lord of the Dead. Yeah, I didn't want to embarrass myself completely on those names.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'll be counting on you when the time comes.
All right, I got 2.
Yeah. And then anyway, yeah, so that's the framing for this, which is, it's kind of unusual as a framing, like compared to what we've seen before. And it's, I suppose it's yeah, I guess it super fits with Fanny, the question of transformation and the butterfly being the animal that chooses her.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of that metaphor of time as well. And just change and process.
So what jumped out to you? I don't know if we need to go through step by step on this one, but
I've always, just like you, I've always really liked this arc. It really stands out to me. Yeah, like you never saw anything like this. I mean, I never did. Just like a trans character getting the full, the spotlight and just seeing things through her eyes. But the idea of initiation stories, I like spirit quests, like shaman, sort of like exploring or encountering the spirit realm. I really like all of this.
Yeah,
and then there's a big payoff too, like with the whole like, and these issues, like a common theme between what we're going to talk about. They're both really exploring the ontology of the invisibles, like the reality of it, the sort of like rules of the metaphysics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because we get deep into time.
Yeah, and I think as we proceed, that's, I mean, yeah, I think it's just at this point it's something that we're going to like continue to circle back to. But as you said in our text, like this story is a perfect opportunity for us to like maybe, I don't know, at the very least put forward a thesis. But I think by issue 13 through 16, maybe we can just kind of call it a day and say that we figured it out, or at least
because we start to learn about Barbaleth. We start to learn about the magic mirrors and the I guess the source of their power, their magical power, and then you even get like a lot of information about how invisible cells are organized in the King Mob and Edith moments.
I think that was described earlier, but I'm not certain. I'm not sure if Boy had described it to Dane during their martial arts training.
She lays out the rules, but like Edith, talks specifically like the role of spirit in, she says, so like Jack's the spirit role, and like the spirit role is to disrupt everything and to kind of question everybody's assumptions. So, we learn exactly what Jack is, that he hates authority so much that he's even rebelling against the Invisibles, and he's going to shake everything to the core.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Edith stops being a shit character at this point.
Yes. I like when she smokes King Mob under the table. Oh, Gideon, don't be such a milquetoast.
That's exactly. And she has more of I don't know. She just displays some wisdom as opposed to being like just this fucking doormat for King Mob to bully around.
Yeah,
which is the impression I got in earlier episodes, issues. I like prior to that, there's the Rob Liefeld influence. Like Jill Thompson does her best Rob Liefeld action scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good jokes.
Yeah, he's like crashing. She's like telling the tale of how he.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. All right. What do we got here? Fanny. I'm not going to say I'm glad for this, because I don't want this to be the case, but it's, like it shows the sort of transphobia that doesn't spend a lot of time on it. Well, it does, and it really does, because later she's going to be like brutally beaten and that sort of thing as a consequence of her transgendered sex worker status. But just the early scene in I don't want to call it a sex shop. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, Transformations it's called, and then they just seem to sell
videos and books.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I don't know a transsexual shop, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah, it's a shop that caters to trans people.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out what all this stuff in the background is, but I guess, yeah, okay. And you can change from Joe into Joanne. Yeah, feminizing products, that sort of thing. And there's, okay, two things to say about this. Well, I'm sure there's a ton to say about it, but it's good to see, that Fanny takes some shit, but then isn't fazed by it. Like really used to it, I guess. I mean, I don't know if that's good, but it makes sense. Like the character, if you're going to be this ontological anarchist transsexual witch, you got to be pretty comfortable in your shoes, I would imagine. So we get some of that, and I didn't put it in my notes, but I'm just thinking about it now. Like Fanny, like like King Mob, is also a Grant Morrison stand-in, because he experimented. I'm not going to say with cross-dressing at the very least is what I'm aware of. I don't know for how long. I don't know under what conditions, but this might be an expression of that experience as well.
I think it is. I think for sure. He talked about in an interview I read how it like played a role in his magic, and that has reasons he thought to include this character. Like that like I was just looking for a pair of tits, darling. Well, you've come to the right place. As she eyes the two like homophobe guys who are there to kind of come in. That's great. That's a great line. I like and I like grabs the one of their hands and like kind of reads them instantly. Oh yeah, like you've dressed up in your sister's clothes too, haven't you, Barry? And she's like, what the fuck, man?
Later, she's dressing, she's transforming, and she's she arms stretched just like the Jesus statue. This is fucking Jill Thompson. This is kind of I both dislike and like this full page image.
Just
like the balloon is just a little heart, and I'm like, on the one hand that's perfect, but on the other hand, like I don't know, the way she's standing, it's so weird. But whatever, it does what you want it to do.
Yeah, the pose is a little awkward. That's all right.
Yeah. So, how did you feel about Brodie and Sir Miles's interaction?
Yeah, so Brodie's just kind of introduced here, and he's like a super agent of the what do we want to call the outer church? He's not really.
I was going to say eventually they're going to be called the Outer Church. I guess at this point he just works for Sir Miles.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Super enforcer going after the Invisibles, going after Lord Fanny. He's gonna rough some people up, some transgendered people up, and he's a real jerk.
Yeah, he's a real fucking ass. And he struck me as a James Bond figure at first. Like in my original notes, I write Brodie is James Bond, and then I got some information that caused me to cross that out.
Okay.
It's from British television, a show called The Professional. So it's like a kind of a British MI6, kind of asshole character. Like it's in the tradition of James Bond, but it's a
British MI6.
Yeah. But it's more, if I remember correctly, it's just a more specific reference than James Bond. But he clearly, he's part of that tradition. Yeah, and he's sort of repressed. He's like, I don't know. He's sleeping with like his first image. Well, one, he's talking about his dream, but two, he's just, I gather he's slept with a beautiful woman or whatever, but he's awake, he's restless, he's not, and he looks over at her, and I don't know what that look is, other than like when you combine it with the fact that he's clearly attracted to transsexuals. I can say that, at least. We don't know enough about him to know what else turns his crank. There's something in that look of dissatisfaction. This isn't this is the life that I'm in. Like in that moment, it looks like a person who's trapped. I don't know. The outer church will probably do that to you.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of that character in Doom Patrol, the guy who's like constructed that kind of sitcom life for himself, but he's like totally fucking weird and like yeah. I guess that's a Morrison vein character. Yeah, the Men from Nowhere episode. Yeah, or arc.
Yeah, well, I guess, and there's 2 TV references there too. So there's something about British television, British like secret agent television that really, really like got in his head, and they're the villain. And that's funny. It's just like they're the villain, which is fair. I mean, like if you're thinking, if your concern, one of your concerns is that television and entertainment and what you watch influences, regiments you, then all that shit, all that cops and robbers stuff, that I can in the same way that like Law and Order is kind of toxic, and all the cop shows and just like the way that we're constantly like we just thrilled to the story of the sheriff. I can see that that's in a lot of ways that's the enemy. And so it makes sense.
Yeah, because narrative just creates empathy for whoever you're telling the story about. So you tend to side with whoever is the focus.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was significant that Sir Miles, he's asked like, do you think it means anything? And I fucking love this quote. So Brodie's just told about his cat or whatever, and it's going to be significant later, which is like the story. I mean, I don't give a damn what it means, Brodie. We hung that dream catcher over your bed to catch oneric energy. That's all. We're not bloody Sigmund Freud. I can't imagine it means anything at all. And there's just something so emblematic about that. So like,
yes.
Yeah, that's what Outer Church is about.
So it's a refusal of dreams and imagination and interpretation. Just, things are what they are with your dreams.
Yeah. I just love the fucking indignity of it.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile he's shooting a Santa Claus.
I just realized that. That didn't occur to me before. It's amazing.
Nice target. Some idiot's idea of a joke. And then So he's getting sent after the McGowan boy, and so Brodie's on the case, and I guess one of the leads is that he heard that Lord Fanny's been asking questions, which leads to their intersection, and then the vomit, the magic mirror vomit. We switch over to the club. Fanny's been feeling sick. And she runs to the bathroom and throws up all of time and space. So I don't know. Do you want to talk about that now?
What I have to say about it kind of skims between Jane and Fanny. So I don't know if you want to keep going linearly or cut across it.
No, at this point, let's just cut. Let's do
sure.
Let's be invisible about this.
All right, sounds good. So I mean, this all connects to the idea, like sort of what Grant's starting to get at about time here, and I just start to think, I just started to wonder, why is that such a thing? And so we've seen the magic mirror, we've seen Jim Crow produce it. I think there was another scene where it was involved, and then in the London which we're gonna look at with Jack, it's they kind of he doesn't specifically say that it's a magic mirror, but they do. The aliens implant like a magic stone in his head, and it
Yes.
allows him to see things that he couldn't otherwise. And then there's a scene where he's kind of, and this also has to do with Paul Johnson's shitty art, where like I just can't necessarily tell what's going on, but he seems to be surrounded magic mirror like sort of substances, so it seems like all of these characters, all the Invisibles, have access to this, and kind of perceive it.
This is just one of those moments, like the punch, Paul Johnson art. It's one of those moments where we would benefit from Morrison's script.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So. And I know later on there's we're going to see a story arc where they go after, like, specifically trying to find a fragment of the magic mirror. So anyway, obviously it's really important to the story, and I just started to wonder, like, what's this a metaphor for? And it was like exactly like you said, connecting it to Best Man Falls, where like it's that's the difference with what Fanny has that our hero in that doesn't. He's got this sort of like greater awareness of time, of life. He can see the shape.
My goodness.
Right. He can't. Yeah, but Lord Fanny can see the shape of her life, and she can see that all that degradation and like whatever she goes through is part of something, and she can reflect on it and has this higher awareness that preserves her through it. Right. So, it just seems like that's such a metaphor for the series. Like I was
just gonna say it's even more for that than that in the case of Fanny. Because think about like it later on. She's facing death. And, she sees the past and future, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly she's seeing everything all at once. And this is the first moment she's getting like the blob coming out of her mouth. All past, present, and future rippling across a trembling hymen. The lightest breath across its surface is significant to alter the fragile structure of time and space. And so, against the wishes of the others, she blows gently. And so like she influences her own story in that moment, like through the magic mirror, whereas the other guy can't.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's like so critical. And like the death figure is trying to influence her away from any sort of, there's nothing here, you're gonna die, like you've wasted your whole life for this moment, you never truly lived, and now you must die. Which is funny because like that kind of warped my brain, because like he's the setup is that because she summoned Tezcatlipoca at like to deal with Orlando, that's the price that she has to pay. Like now, there's a consequence, but the consequence is happening to her 11-year-old self. So I think basically death is just, you sly dog, like just trying to trick this kid, because she obviously has to live to the point to be able to do that summoning. I thought that was kind of funny.
And Morrison's when I think about because in the past, sorry, this is not necessarily Invisibles related, but I think it's Morrison related for sure. I don't know if you ever read The Seven Soldiers of Victory.
Yes, I did.
That huge thing, and I've given Morrison shit for not being able to stick the landing before. He stuck the fucking landing in Seven Soldiers of Victory, as far as I'm concerned, and it's one of those moments where things happen atemporally, and a rock thrown in the past or a spear thrown in the past over time transforms into a car, which impales the final adversary. And I don't know. I don't know if this is the first time he's been playing with this theme, but it's something that he likes to play with. If time really has no meaning, because actually we're going to see one of the Archons later. They move forward and backward in time to attack their enemies. And the Invisibles' magical ability is to somehow respond to that atemporality. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah. I think like in terms of like just like this is a work of art, and the sort of like it has such mythic resonance, which is one of the things I really like about this arc. And there's that idea that death is always present, that Tezcatlipoca is always standing over your shoulder, and like so like what do you make of your, like if you're aware that death is always there, then you can make decisions that matter, like that you can turn that around and like just kind of not just go through the motions, and to actually take charge of where you're going in life, because you're going to die eventually. And I don't know, that's really a powerful thing that this sets up.
Yeah. it's so like there's so much of more like I guess it's not a coincidence that I'm thinking of Morrison so many of other Morrison's other works. When this is jumping way ahead, but when Fanny's like, I will crawl through shit, I will take all the filth of the world and turn it into purest gold. I will rise from the darkness, shining like the morning star, like the filth, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the moral of the filth. And that's his X-Men story. That's his Batman story.
Yeah.
Like this is, this is. Morrison had the Kathmandu experience in. I think he wrote about it in the letters page of issue 2.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, and then he was like, I finally know what the Invisibles is about. And I think maybe with Best Man Fall, we're starting to get closer to it. And with this, we're getting closer still.
Yeah.
So.
And I think on a meta level too, that like all the stuff about the magic mirror and like kind of what we're talking about is probably Grant talking about magic in general, because when Lord Fanny passes the Mictlantecuhtli and is allowed into the garden that's there, it's this very kind of Edenic moment where there's the tree there. She pricks her tongue and like learns the secret language of the shaman or sorceress. Right. I can't remember exactly what word is used, and then is able to speak words that influence reality. But then she sees, she's confronted by this kind of iron guardian, this butterfly like monster, and she says she wants to see the face of the gods. And in that moment, she sees basically Barbaleth, But what was the line though? I had a line here where it like made me think that this must be Morrison talking about magic. All times are the same thing. No, that wasn't it. Oh right, yeah. The secret. They say they're going to tell her the secret, and the secret is that we gods are only masks. Who wears us? Find it out. And that Grant definitely talks about that when he talks about magic. Like trying on different connections with different gods and things like that, and experimenting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's hard. I when thinking about magic, especially in the comic book tradition, I can't help but contrast, and in a generative way with Alan Moore's work, and this notion. Alan talks about he was writing from hell because he came to magic much later than Morrison did, and in a very different way. The more I think about it, but he had Sir William Wuthy Gull say something to the carriage driver in I can't remember, Whitley, in that one issue of From Hell, and he said something to the effect that like the gods, to the extent that all gods exist in the human imagination, they're true.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And he says that was the moment where he was like, oh, and then he kind of made the journey over for lots of reasons. He was surrounded by that crew and that stream of thinking, and maybe it was inevitable, but that was his sort of turning point.
Both of those sound a lot like William Blake too. When not that Blake was into magic, but when he talks about religion, like there's a very similar feeling that like myths are stories, and like you can get tricked into believing that they're true, or you can access the poetic truth and like draw power from that.
Fuck, I got a book for you, dude. Okay, so actually, to anyone listening, I'm just finishing reading up volume 1 of Elizabeth Sandifer's First War in Albion. And it is for one, it's a really thorough history of both Alan Moore and Grant Morrison's comic career and their influences, who influenced them, who did they influence. But it places, and this is the kicker, it places it all within the context of the poetry of William Blake.
Oh, no shit. Oh, I gotta read that. That sounds interesting.
Fucking amazing. Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I was thinking I wasn't sure if I was going to bring it up, but anyway, yeah, it's really
I forced
great.
Your hand.
Yeah, you did, man. So, and anyone listening, Elizabeth Sandifer, Christmas gifts for your actually it's gonna show up. But
for your children.
Yeah. The okay, so getting back to the stuff that okay, so magic in this story allows you to interact with the structure of the narrative. Let's say that.
Yeah, that's a really good way to. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So
yeah, holy shit, that's like that's really huge.
Yeah, and we're going to see that with Sir Miles as well later. You know, like what the outer church, their magic allows them also to influence the narrative. I think.
Well, I'm thinking the last sentence of the whole thing too. Like,
our sentence is up.
No, not to get way ahead of it, but
yeah. Oh yeah, no, language figures heavily. You know, I think it's all about language in this, which is interesting because it's such a visual medium. But the the comic really posits. Well, I don't know. Actually, no, I don't want to. I'll lose my train of thought if I go down there. I was thinking of Michael Bertrand. You know, getting back to that guy who so clearly influenced Jim Crow's voodoo and all that stuff.
Right.
One of the things that
you'd mentioned that a lot of like the alien imagery in Invisibles was influenced by that guy's book too, right?
Yes, yeah, and I think also, and you know, this notion of the ontic engineers, but when he talks about the mirror fantastique, you know, he's just talking about he's talking about the imagination, you know, in that book, and if you want to be a magician, you have to be able to you cultivate your imagination, and that's where magic takes place. If I remember correctly, I don't have the quote in front of me. And I just happened to, you know, it just occurred to me, given the strong influence of that particular author, and given the role of Shelley, you know, his claim that, you know, freedom is in the imagination and that sort of thing. I think, and in Morrison's sort of like typical meta fashion, like he's just really pointing hard, you know, like this fourth dimensional. And he does this throughout his career. Again, this is so hardcore Morrison, you know, like, okay, so the narrative exists in 4 dimensions. We're going to pretend that it is a fourth dimensional structure. And what it exists within is the imagination, which is the 5th dimension. And you'll hear that all throughout his career, you know, going forward from here. Again, Batman run, Justice League of America, all of his comic book stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the payoff from that is, but
yeah, I guess we'll find out as we go.
Well, I guess what I mean is I don't know how to use that to transition back into the story.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. All times are one, so let's just pick a point.
Yeah. Yeah. Fine.
Right. Well, yeah. Back to
the bits. Yeah, I don't let's see what else is in the notes here. It's kind of fucking hardcore. So they take Fanny to the ancient Mexican temple, and they drug her real bad, and then they basically, like, did they cut her leg to like sever her femoral artery?
That's right.
Yeah, like, well, they say she's dying. And it's a question of if she'll still survive, right?
I didn't catch that. I thought it was like they just cut her leg to simulate menstrual bleeding because they needed to trick the spirits into, you know, that she's becoming a woman. Like that would be the normal initiation for the Bruja.
Yeah. And that's fair, and I would agree with you. I mean, it's true as well. But I think, you know, it says if you're not lucky, they will kill you.
That's
true.
There's going to kill you.
Assuming that they're speaking metaphorically, like, and like, look where he cut her, like, right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
I like that. I like that interpretation, but it just seems like they're pretty. I don't know. They like her. It just seems like very, very harsh.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. Well, she is dressed like Papa Shango here. Like she's got a horn through her nose, and she's got like death makeup and skulls on her ass or something like that. Like she's really transformed to like this creature of death. So I don't know. And then her mom's holding her down.
Yeah,
that's a fucking trip, man. Jesus.
Yeah, I thought it's interesting, like the way that Fanny is accepted. And I think that this may be like just one of those things where the series just shows its age just a little bit, but it's funny to me the idea that, you know, they need a girl. So like they just like the test is that they're going to hold out a dress. And then if Fanny likes the dress, then it's going to be, you know, then it's cool. She's one of the girls. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. If they wrote it these days, it would just be like, oh, like they recognize, you know, based on her gender expression, wow, our problem solved. Like the grandma realizes that, hey, we actually do have a girl here. Yeah, which is not a huge thing, but just
I give Morrison a lot of shit for a lot of things, and I was gonna kind of let that slide, because he doesn't have a lot of time to deal with the politics of transsexuality. Like I guess he kind of does, you know, like maybe he has a responsibility. I don't know, but when I like looking at the caption, I looked and it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, and I was like, well, that's fucking convenient.
I think it's funny to me too, because like my parents, particularly my dad, was like an immigrant, like first generation, came over on the boat, and like it's just like putting boys in dresses was just a thing that people did because it was convenient, because you didn't have to have a lot of them. So I mean, it just struck me as like in the context of that, I was like, that's pretty funny that, you know.
That's funny. That's very interesting. Of course. It makes the dad's comment, and he's just like, don't put her in a dress, you know. It's very it's maybe a very Western attitude. But then again, he's sitting on the couch watching TV, drinking beer. Oh, one thing I want to comment on. So, all right, so she's meant to be the I'm gonna fucking butcher this, but you know, the bruja, like the witch, the South American witch. You know, it's a sort of a Creole position, a mixture of Christianity and local religious practices, indigenous practices. And what's interesting to me about Morrison's work is he de-Christianizes to a very large extent, not completely, but he de-Christianizes all of the magic. Like you don't get any Christian in voodoo, but there's a ton of Christianity in voodoo, you know, and you get none of it with Fanny as well, except for the big cross, right? There's a cross above the bed, you know, like I think environmentally you get it, but not metaphysically or ontologically.
Right. This is pure Mayan mythology.
Yeah, which is super bullshit. You know, like it's he wants to posit that he's getting at something pure, something primitive. But these things don't exist in that form. They never did. But it's important to his narrative and his ideas, specifically about magic.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like the world mythology, this perspective that, like, when he talks about his view of magic, he talks about liking, you know, he's into chaos magic. It's punk. It's like, you know, it takes from everything. Yeah, so I think that's probably part of, you know, just like these stories are powerful, so let's use them. But you're definitely right. It doesn't seem totally authentic.
And then this is the same, like, you know, authenticity is bunk, but I think it's significant. I think, like, if you do it once, if you're quote unquote inauthentic once, fine, and then you're quote unquote inauthentic a second time, you got to start thinking about, like, what do these two things have in common, and you know, it's both that he's de-Christianized them. And I think it has to do with, like, his I think it has more to do that if they were Christianized, then suddenly they would have been a little bit a part of the outer church. You know, like that monotheism. I think in Morrison's idea, it's very patriarchal. You get it in the Letters column as well. When he starts talking about Islam, I start doing that thing, like, where I pull on my collar. I'm like, ooh. But I think that's it. I think he you know, like, magic, specifically chaos magic, is not interested in monotheism, and so it can't have it. You know, otherwise it's just like, I think it's just unacceptable to the story, to his own ethic. Can't have the heroes be like that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that probably also part of it is that, like wanting to show these diverse traditions and showing that, when you break apart that sort of authority that the outer church represents, the sort of monotheistic totalitarian impulse, you're getting people from all over the world and like these sort of vibrant traditions that have a lot, just have a lot to them, and that are kind of erased under that. Erase is harsh, but
but historians will speak of, the subaltern, the that which
exactly.
That's the charitable reading. That's certainly, and maybe they're both valid. But I think there's also something. I was listening to it was called White Utopias, the author of a book called White Utopias, and this anthropologist who studies like Burning Man.
Okay.
And all those festivals out of San Francisco and something, and she'd go to these things, and it's like, go to an authentic Indian chakra healing or whatever, and it's like 80% white people. And she was like, okay, what's going on?
We're much more aware of appropriation in sort of fantasy tropes and things like that. Not that I really don't feel like Invisibles touches on appropriation. I think Grant's really trying to give due respect to different mythical traditions of the world, but that's
he does talk about it. Well, no, he doesn't talk about appropriation with Jim Crow, like the taking of bodies and like the ultimate appropriation, cultural appropriation. So he's aware of the idea. But anyway, what the anthropologist points to is just like it's a stream within anthropological thought about religious exoticism by individuals within, let's say, white society who are troubled by modernity and seeking an alternative spirituality. They don't want to be religious; they want to be spiritual. And I was just like, oh my God, that's Morrison. That's so fucking Morrison, like up and down. And so Invisibles, and you can't, because he by erasing its Creole nature, by erasing its, authentic substance, isn't he just, he's appropriating it and leveling it out. I think that's another thing that bugs me. It levels out voodoo and like Jim Crow and Lord Fanny. They're pretty much the same fucking magician. Like, and there's no difference.
Yeah, I guess that's I give Morrison a little more credit though, because it's such playfulness in the way that even in the way he approaches the ideas and approaches his sense of magic, that it's just like white people looking just for spirituality, quote unquote. It just seems harsh to apply to him. But
well, I'm gonna do it anyway, right. and maintain it throughout, and I've always kind of this listening to this particular interview kind of like solidified it for me, but only because we've been reading so much Invisibles and in such depth. But it did resonate. They're not the same character. I'll certainly be fair about that, and they communicate different things. So in that respect, he's not leveling them completely, but they both vomit out magic mirror, right?
Yes.
And they both talk to gods and allow the gods and make deals with gods, and exist in complex time structures. It just makes their magic identical. And maybe that makes sense for the Invisibles as a superhero story. But I think there's some complexity there.
Yeah. I mean, I draw a little bit of a distinction between the attitudes to the gods in this. Like, there's no sense that Fanny is commanding the gods the way that there's just kind of like this swagger to Jim Crow, like, and like he's sort of a fusion with Baron Samedi, and it's like just like Fanny's much more experience. I don't know exactly how to say it.
Well, I'm a prostitute in hell. That's very
right.
different.
That's part of it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like much more like influenced by the gods. But I mean, she's not totally passive either. Like looking at the second issue we covered, like she encounters the axe in the night who it's heart, then you get a wish, but if not, it's gonna kill you. And she's able to do that. And I love the one of my favorite things in all of the Invisibles is when she talks her way out of Tezcatlipoca's lair by telling the dead baby joke, which is like,
yes,
I love a good dead baby joke, and like that's always stuck with me. She makes them laugh, and what's pink and stiff and something
makes girls squeal.
Makes girls scream. Yeah. Well, I don't know what caught death babies.
Yeah, I like that could be a penis joke, and
yes,
it's
exactly.
Like sex and death, and it's that moment, like that final, Orlando's there and he's like, you're here, pain, you were mistaken. Well, would you like me to give you a joke? And then like and he's like, and the god is like, what? And that's a good moment, where you see her turn the tables.
Yes.
Go on.
Ahead. I think you're probably gonna say what I was gonna say.
Actually, I'm not sure, because the next page, like it like that's when she's brutally assaulted, and it's like it's one of those contrasts, like it's jumping around in time, and she's turned the tail on death, but then you turn to the moment when like she's going to be at her lowest.
Yeah, but it's that attitude that like when you're at your lowest, like how are you resilient, how do you bounce back, and like that is very consistent with the character.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, she's facing death, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's her list. Maybe, yeah.
From a pure like formalist like god comics or neat perspective, like this sequence where so you see the axe in the knight's chest open, and she says, "Just put your hand in, little one," and then it's side by side. She's in the car with this like. I thought it was the Marquis de Sade at first, but no.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I wrote this down.
And he's like, like. That's it. Put your hand like and she's like reaching into his pants, and then he's just like, she's being assaulted, but like that exact moment and like the juxtaposition, like that earlier initiation is the future, and then when a few pages, like the next page, she snatches the heart from him, and then like the thing has its hand on its head, and it's sort of like a comforting gesture, like, are you too young to be afraid of anything? But like the position looks exactly like like the sort of compromising position that she's in the future too. So like this sort of density like of images and like the still shot, like you couldn't do that in any other medium, and like that image sort of resonates throughout this whole issue. Like there are a couple of points where it kind of comes back to that.
Yeah, the Deadlands are all about you. They grow more visible with each moment that you live. You are already there, and it looks like you're like,
exactly,
yeah, and and Brodie's got the gun in her mouth, in a very phallic way, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Death penis imagery, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's so dense and concentrated, and like just like such an perfect understanding of the medium, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is Morrison on full cylinders. Putting aside all of my criticisms or whatever, like these fucking issues are amazing.
Yeah.
And then King Mob gets. I like seeing King Mob beat the shit out of Brodie eventually. Not to change the gears too suddenly. I'm not sure if there was more we wanted to say about the perfection of this story, but
no, I think that's fine. That's Leona. It's great.
Yeah. It was just nice for him to show up. But as a martial artist, I fucking hate Morrison's martial arts. Like what the it looks stupid, and he constantly has them, like, even when later on he's gonna have Batman, it's like, Jesus, man, stop it. But whatever, Morrison's gonna Morrison. And then he gets captured.
He gets fucked up.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't know if I fully appreciated this before, but Morrison. King Mob's all fucked up, and then
Mhm.
it's Fanny who delivers the killing blow by stabbing him in his crotch with a glass. It's stabbing Brodie, that is, with glass, like right in his crotch. But it's that exact same. She says, like, this one in my place. So she's giving him as a sacrifice instead of her. But like she makes him bleed in the same way that her grandma did. So
Yep.
that's well done, full circle. That's James gonna love this.
Yeah, man. Holy shit. I didn't notice that, but I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. He cut the femoral artery. This one in my place. Fantastic.
He's got an awesome death scene.
Yeah. With the cat just coming up.
Yeah.
Christ, Starkey, you little bugger. That's, and then he dies laughing about his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that the cat, like, the cat's has been dead for a long time. He's like, here, this one for old time, and it sticks its ass in his face the way cats do. Christ, you dirty little bugger. Don't make me laugh.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and then I think I'm always going to be pleased, as I've said, with dramatic unity. So he starts off talking about the dream, and ends with the dream. It doesn't quite fit, but I like it. It's hello, Lewis. I guess it fits with your animal. I wonder if he had an animal familiar. Maybe he never had it.
You're right. That's exactly it. And then that idea of just the sort of like the low, like coming into it, like just like the idea of like crawling through shit and filth and stuff like that. And here's a cat sticking its ass in your face in the moment of death.
Yeah, and then just a white. Thick. I never really thought about like what his death looks like, but I'm looking at it right now and it's just like it's a panel, white panel. I don't know if this means anything, but I guess I want to think of it,
Yeah, it's like almost like the outline of a black door, like darkness, like if the light was shining behind it or something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, all right. I don't know. I guess that's the full thing there.
We got through it.
Yeah, we did it.
It's dense. There we go.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there'd be that much to talk about that one because it's like, I don't know. It's not like it's straightforward, but I don't know. But apparently there was.
Yeah, I think there always is. I think I sometimes feel that way when James and I are doing the other stuff. Like we'll read some sort of fucking nonsense book and I'm
Bloodshot.
Always shocked. Yeah, Bloodshot. I'm always shocked by how many words can come out of anything, right?
Yeah.
So even the most worthy, yeah. I guess the one thing that we didn't. No, it's kind of stupid for me to bring it up, but I'm just looking at mine. Oh, actually, you know what? There's a bunch of stuff we didn't touch on.
All right.
But it's kind of the side. There's a reason we didn't touch on it.
Oh, the Robin and yeah,
but also when King Mob gives that guy a ride,
right? Yeah, that is kind of important. I think I'm not sure.
It's not important. I guess it's worth a little chat.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about Rag Robin and Boy in the bar, like those, like a weird Sunday comic strip.
Yeah. They're just asides, like, but exactly in that sort of like, the sort of like heart, like the Archie kind of comic sort of things.
I was thinking of Charlie Brown or something, like really Sunday strip comics, Blondie, something like that. But then when King Mob gives that guy a ride and talking about UFOs and internet, everything trying to evolve. I didn't catch your name. It evokes the chess player.
I thought so too. I was going to ask if you thought that was the chess player in a sort of like different guise.
Well, it aims in that direction. It wants to make you think that, and then when he's looking back, in the rear view mirror, it doesn't look like that hippie guy. It looks like I honestly don't know what that image is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But King Mob seems to have an idea of what he had just talked to.
Yeah.
But what struck me about all that is just like, well, I guess there's the UFO thing. So it's back to the Michael Bertrio stuff. UFOs as negative psychic energy, New Mexico. but then it's a moment for him to talk about Terence McKenna. Internet as a scapegoat. I listened to a bunch. I love listening to Terence McKenna lectures. I recommend it. He's so charming. It's much better than his written word. His written word's fucking garbage. But listening to him talk, aces. And this idea, he was really into the internet in the same way that Timothy Leary and all those counterculture guys turned cyberculture real fast. In a way that nowadays makes a joke of the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't, I don't know. I've got a rant that is unrelated, but I'll leave that alone. But this idea of everything trying to evolve, like rocks are transforming into computers.
Right.
Maybe I can't avoid my rant, but it's just like it's this idea that I don't know, just like just something the idea that the internet was going to be spiritually enlightening. Let's leave it at that. Yeah. And it's naive in its in its purity right here.
Man, I wrote that before I kind of clued into maybe that this guy's the chess player, I wrote, this guy's Joe Rogan.
Oh, shit.
Total naivety. We all got to get along, and aliens and DMT, man.
Oh, actually, you know what? Actually, I think I've already ranted about this with you before, but Rogan's going to arrive again. Next episode, when the butterfly metaphor comes up, Joe Rogan's going to be a name drop, so
he's on the chopping block.
Well, no, it's just the compatibility.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to talk about at that time is the compatibility between New Age spirituality and right-wing social conservatism, or even capitalism, even late stage, quote unquote, late stage capitalism. The two go fucking hand in hand. Yeah. And so anyway, we lots of stuff to say about that.
Yeah, there'll be a lot. That's ammo for next time, I think. I don't personally hate Joe Rogan, but I do think he's incredibly naive, and we'll just leave it at that for now.
Both you and I have probably listened to Knowledge Fight.
Yes.
Him talking with Alex Jones, what a fucking joke. We can talk about this. Yeah. It's just super sad, and it's a disgrace. It's when they talk about the intellectual dark web or whatever, I think they should get rid of the first adjective. It's fucking garbage. Anyway,
I'm a little bit worried that this series will accidentally land on that sort of naivety of we all just got to get along, get over tribalism, man. Which it's a fine message, but ignores the incredible amount of work that has to be done to get to that point.
Yes,
on the part of people who are holding all the power. So, but I guess we'll find out.
And the hypocrisy of it, talking about Joe fucking Rogan. Anyway, let's leave the airs of the shores of Joe Rogan.
Still have a whole issue to.
And we'll travel over to the gentle shores of London, as illustrated by Paul Johnson. And I don't think there's a lot to say about. This is the one where I don't know really. I have a couple things to talk about, but this is
straightforward.
It's in the way that being abducted by aliens is totally straightforward.
Paul fucking Johnson, though, man. I'm nice. I try to say something nice things about people, but this art is so oh shit, my assignment's due tomorrow. That is the fucking equivalent that Paul Johnson has turned in here. And then apparently he quit comics because he didn't get choice assignments. Fucking learn to walk before you or crawl before you run, man.
Yeah, that's super harsh. I'm looking at some of these images, and there's definitely some truth to what you're saying, but I thought there was some potential here. I kind of liked it.
All right.
But that's funny that it's rare to get a real rise out of you. So I'm pleased.
True. Yeah. Paul Johnson. He has another. I know he does another. I think there's one more issue that's Paul Johnson. So we'll see. We'll see if it's a fluke.
I think it's another Dane issue, so I think he got the special Dane assignments. So this is we're tuning in on Dane here, and he's having thoughts about sexing up Boy, and regrets about shooting that guy in the face, and and having, looking at the pigeons and kind of remembering. Yeah, and he's kind of having flashbacks, like the programming in his mind is kind of coming to the surface a bit more now. And it really fucking comes to the surface in the form of alien abduction. Oh shit. Yeah, when I look at that image, I'm like, okay, I know why Chris thinks this is shit.
Yeah.
It looks like garbage.
The very next page, he's like, I don't know what's happening. Either like he's like this alien tentacle is enveloping his genitals, or it's just kind of hovering over him, and I cannot tell. And I've stared at that probably for 20 minutes trying to figure out what's going on. But
oh man, it's enveloping his genitals for sure. Okay. But I see what you're saying. Okay, so the reason why it's so clear to me, but I do see I see what you're talking about. But I've been reading a history. I haven't read all of it, but I dipped into, let's say, a history of, it's They Know Us Better Than We Know Ourselves is the title, and it's the history and politics of alien abduction. And it's just a fucking litany of stories of being picked up by the aliens and fucking mutilated and raped. It's got a real sexual assault element to it. And at first, when I was looking at this alien abduction scenario, I was thinking, my first recollection was like, oh, that wasn't very rapey. But then, like, there's spikes coming at his face, and his genitals overwhelmed, and he's like, why can't I fucking move? And they're doing surgery on him, and so it fits into that mold. But then it quickly, actually, even then, he's like, and blood in his eyes, and then he snaps out of it. And these individuals with this story, like, they'll have this awful experience, and then they'll say afterwards, though, but they're shown the future. They're given some sort of insight.
Oh, okay. So this is like textbook alien abduction.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that Morrison recognizes that, and then Dane even disobeys the cultural narrative of alien abduction.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, fuck off. I'm not being chosen by anybody, right? But you have been elected to. That's shite. This is fucking, you're not real aliens. This is like film, except it's 3D, And the history of all that alien abduction shit, it comes from science fiction. It comes from like pulp fictions. You didn't get alien abduction stories until Pulp Fiction started talking about flying saucers.
Okay.
So
and that
Dane,
savior narrative,
Yeah, so he cottons to that, special. And then all of it. Yeah, and so then they're just like, good. Now we will show you the, I don't know, truth. Watch the blank, find it out, and then like,
yeah,
and then back down to Barbellis, right?
Yeah,
we are.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's all.
Okay, I was just gonna say that this whole vision triggers because he sees the word Barbellis written on the wall, and he kind of flashes back to his training with John. And this is like the flip. So you see him staring at that image in the whatever issue 3 or 4. Now you're kind of seeing the flip side of what he experienced but didn't remember, which is cool. I really like that. Yeah, like the content of this issue is cool, but just the art makes it a slog.
You just couldn't handle it, huh?
Yeah, well, I love when he's just thinking about they're talking to him and he's just thinking about smashing the alien's head,
yes,
breaking up bastards, and they're like, oh, well, violence, you can't act effectively here. So they see his thoughts, but they're like, yeah, sorry, pal, you're gonna have to talk to us.
Yeah.
It's so Dane. I don't know, I just love this character. It's funny how aggressive and just oppositionally defiant he is, but it's fun as well.
It's he's growing on me. I think what I like about him, and maybe this is because Grant has crap, I don't, obviously it's from Grant, right? This is Grant's character, but he doesn't feel like a Grant Morrison character or a Grant Morrison stand-in. But then again, what do I know about the man?
Yeah.
Or does it need to? It doesn't, these characters don't have to express anything essential about the author, but I think about it just because so many of Morrison's characters express something essential about the author. That's kind of his thing.
Yeah. I feel like I've always thought I don't know if this is backed up by anything, but it's always felt like to me like Dane is sort of like I guess like an adolescent view of like maybe his views of like, you know, like anarchy, yeah, fuck yeah, smash the system, and then like this whole journey is like trying to show him evolving past that into something that's maybe more sustainable.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. And definitely backed up by the text, you know, and starts off, you know, like this kid who's being abducted by aliens and being shown the answer to the universe, or, you know, began the story by burning a library.
Yeah.
So.
And then he's right back at it when he meets Sir Miles. I love it. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's
man, it's so. Oh, go on.
It's like this it's like completely homophobic moment where like Miles is trying to convince him to like, you know, like, oh, like it's a devil tempting Jesus in the wilderness. Like you know, we own the world, all of the riches, cars, beautiful women, join us. You know, you're not one of these scum. And then he's just like, oh, what do you want my hand for? And he kicks him in the nuts. Poofy bastard. Yeah. Only because, you know, like obviously, like you spent 3 issues like getting into the mind of a transgendered person. Like this is obviously not Grant's perspective, so like it's just like you can. I mean, I personally can accept.
Well, it's totally
that
yeah, but
it's totally
Dane.
homophobic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's about homophobia, but like, you know, he's gonna grow out of it. But it's funny.
Yeah, he's just like he's a thug that you right fag, you know, like just that whole thing. He's definitely still stuck in that, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like there's something. It is interesting that he's still stuck in that, even though like he's clearly become, you know, narratively a little closer to enlightenment, a little closer, like, and even though he's actually had one of those experiences, like an emptiness of subjectivity, there's still those patterns that he can't escape, and that's good for a character.
Yeah, right. It's like he's not
human.
Exactly. He's not just going to bust out of it right away because it's deep in there. And I think it might also be like him hardening himself, because like in the next page you get John telling, like the flashback to John telling him like, you know, use your anger. It's your power. Don't be afraid of it. So maybe it's just like reverting to a pure maximum Dane, like, you know, from the start of the story. Yeah.
Wanker, fucking dickhead.
Yeah, exactly.
You must think I'm fucking soft in the head. I love that. And then he runs. Yeah, but then he runs away joyous, right?
Yeah. And then we get we said like, you know, you didn't get too many like displays of power like John chose them to start, but here we got one here.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and maybe it just wasn't drilled into my head because of Paul Johnson's fantastic powers. Because I'm looking at these cars exploding, and I'm so, well, that's a car exploding at least.
It might be, or it might be a snowstorm.
Yeah. Who knows? I don't know. Then I love Tom of Bedlam's. In the end, I've only one true teaching for you, Dane. One simple word: disobedience.
I love that quote.
Yeah, that's fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
But then again, Tom of Bedlam's cool. He's got the best lines. I don't think anyone. Yeah, he's he passes the mantle over, and Dane cuts his hair symbolically, puts on his
he looks a lot better.
Heart shirt. He does look a lot better. Yeah,
that is a missed opportunity for marketing. Like like they always like merchandise the shit out of Vertigo stuff. They sort of should have sold that shirt like with the crossed out heart. It looks fucking cool.
Yeah, that's so true, man. You're not wrong. Because like the merchandise, like I wouldn't want to wear like that grenade. Maybe I would now if it was like a little off to the side. But I'd wear that shirt though if I was maybe even now. I don't know.
Yeah.
One aspect of Morrison's thought, like I've spent a lot of time like kind of, and you know we both have like looking at kind of the history that and spiritual, you know, religious traditions and all that shit that's informing, and magical traditions that's informing Morrison. But next week we're going to get to talk about the literary influences of upon Morrison. You know, Michael Moorcock, J.G. Ballard,
right?
And I guess we're also going to get and maybe it's a good moment to think about Philip K. Dick, because that's definitely part of the stew. Like he's a writer engaging with other writers, you know, British writers, a British literary tradition. Yeah, I don't know how far we'll dig into that, but I got myself some Jerry Cornelius novel.
Okay,
Dig in.
nice. And by next week, you mean next Invisible? Because I thought you were going to tease our very special Christmas special.
Oh yeah, no, I meant next month. Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm excited for the very special Christmas special.
Me too, man.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.